Exactly today, 7 years ago, we got the keys to a crumbling chateau in Normandy.
We had been manifesting this chateau. It was almost a whole year in terms of waiting to get the bank loan. And we ended up finally getting this chateau, and it was surreal.
In order to buy the chateau, we had to sell everything we had, and we had to use all our savings. That was a huge gamble.
It was very stressful times. Like, you had high blood pressure, I think.
From the loan application process?
Yeah.
Really?
There was also this reality check of what have we got ourselves into.
The walls in the original state, if you take out all the furniture, all the paintings from the wall, all the carpets, then you see what's really there. An empty shell, much more crumbling than we remembered. When we came here with the parents, it was a bit of a shock. And also, it was funny because we had this TV crew following us, and they gave us instructions what to do, where to stay. So it wasn't really, we weren't really able to enjoy it as much as we would have done it if it was only us. And it was overwhelming. First of all, we weren't used to speak in front of a camera, neither of us. So it was emotionally absolutely weird moment.
Yeah. I remember that we slept in the chateau that night, and that we realized that there wasn't any heating. It was May, but it was freezing cold. We went to bed, and the next morning, do you remember, we woke up and there was the bells of the church ringing at 7 a.m. We knew there was a church right in front of us, but we just didn't know that the bells rang at 7 a.m. every single day.
And that wasn't a problem for us. The reason why we bought the chateau was to turn it into a guest house, and we suddenly thought, oh my goodness, if everybody in the morning hears these bells and wakes up, that's never going to work as a guest house. People will be super upset. And funny enough, when we opened finally the guest house later, it wasn't a problem at all. Nobody cared. Everybody loves it.
Above all, I just remember from that time just feeling pure excitement and energy, like propelling us forward, because we just believed so much in our project. I think that energy kept us going for a long time, actually, to be honest. Like, we sometimes look back now and we can't really understand how we did everything. I think that was a big highlight, the day we actually did the big move from Paris, and we were finally living here full time. And it was July, so it was the summer, it was beautiful weather. I remember us doing some improvised barbecues in the garden and picking fruit from the potager. It was the first time we'd ever moved into an unrenovated property. It was interesting, and we were basically living out of cardboard boxes. We didn't unpack properly, and I remember the kids we were all living in one bedroom. Lily was on a camp bed.
Because we heated only one room. We had some little electrical heaters.
Yes, we didn't have proper...
And in the bathroom there was no heating at all, and so we made a warmish bath. In the bath it was okay, but as soon as the kids came out, they were freezing in the winter.
We were crying.
There was one big shock though in the first year, 2019, financial. We thought we had estimated rather well the building cost, until the day came when we get the quotes for the facade from a builder, not only financially but also how long it would take. And I thought I can do it in a couple of months, maybe myself, but we realized it will take 5 guys several months to do. So if I would do it, or we would do it ourselves, it would be years of work. So there was no choice to do it ourselves. And in order to pay for all the facades, it was over 100,000 euros. And that was more or less half of our complete renovation budget for the first phase. That was a shock. That was a huge shock, and we didn't know what to do, honestly.
Yeah, we decided maybe we can just do the front facade to begin with. When we started doing it, we soon realized it wasn't possible, because the front facade, once it was renovated, looked so much better than it made the other sides look terrible, even worse than before.
Well, we thought because the guests will come from the front, so they see it, they come here, they like it inside.
So we did just 3 facades. That was our solution.
And financially, we also had an idea, and that was to just go back to the bank and ask them for 50,000 more. They trusted our project, and they were just able to give us,
We were also very lucky because we ended up receiving a grant of 30,000 euros from the the regional Heritage Society. That 30,000 was...
Well, it helped us so much. Building-wise, the biggest milestone of that year was to bring in all the pipes underneath the main entrance, underneath the hallway, and connect it to the new pipe system that we installed inside here.
Which you installed.
It's true. I did mostly, or almost everything myself. I taught myself electrics and plumbing, and that's how I became this famous waste pipe influencer. And then I also dug this huge, massive trench underneath the floor. By hand. And then we had help from a good mason to put in these beautiful stones with the Pierre de Bourgogne, this nice limestone from Burgundy. So, and that really created this beautiful hallway, and I still think it's one of the most beautiful hallways that I've ever seen.
We're so happy with how it looks because it looks like it has
Show
always
me
been like
a
that.
more beautiful entrance.
But then we had a huge fail. Well,
It was our fault because we used a company we worked before in Paris to do a job they are not qualified to. Make a trench and put waste pipes in from here, from the Chateau, about 100 meters to the collection of the sewage system. And they did it in a wrong way, in a bad way, and
we didn't know.
we didn't know. We had to dig it up 2 years later, and now we just figured out we have to dig up everything again. So huge mistake, expensive mistakes, it's like a 20-30K mistake, but that's part of the learning process, I would think. So that was a bit of a downer,
That was a big downer.
and it's still a downer.
It's always resolved.
Yeah, let's see. Third time a charm, no, how do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first rooms we renovated at the Chateau was some rooms in the attic that we turned into our apartment.
Yeah.
We finished our apartment in the beginning of 2020.
Yeah. And we moved in, and that was a huge highlight for me because I just remember we'd been living like camping basically in these very old rooms, very cold, all in one room together. And finally we had these rooms that felt like our own, and it was our little cocoon. The girls had a really cute, cozy bedroom.
It was clean.
It was clean.
No dust.
It was heated.
It felt like absolute luxury after what we had for a year.
I remember when we were really tired after renovating at night, we would go and have like a bath, and that was like the ultimate luxury.
And it also meant we could start finally renovating the guest rooms.
Yes.
The first guest room we did was what we called the yellow room.
Well, it used to be a yellow room.
Yeah.
It's now the blue guest room, or it was the blue guest room. And also, obviously, most people will remember that in March 2020 was the first lockdown during COVID. We found ourselves, on one hand, having this incredible place to be confined. We went out, we bought as many things as we could before all the shops and everything closed, and then we just had to do as much as we could by ourselves. Whilst your mum was looking after the kids, we were just non-stop painting, weren't we, and decorating and trying to get it finished.
After the blue room, we finished the pink room, and we started working on the green room.
Yeah.
And in the blue room and the green room, you did your first wallpaper. I think that was definitely a highlight.
Yes, that's true. I came up with my first lino printed wallpaper for the green room, and it worked, and I was super happy because it saved us a lot of money, and we felt like it really added a lot to the space and made it really personal. Then I did the same thing for the blue room. So we were able to get those 3 guest rooms ready and finished.
For what months did we open?
August 2020.
I remember a couple of days before we opened, we went online and put the website up just to see if everything works.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes after, I got an email through this booking website and say, we got you our first booking for tomorrow. And we weren't ready. There was still no taps in the bathroom. There was still...
Oh my goodness.
And then we said, what should we do? We immediately put the website down. We would never have expected that somebody finding us within 5 minutes. But we said, we can't cancel our first booking.
It would be bad karma.
That's bad karma.
Yeah.
So we need to finish the room. And instead of having a week, we had an afternoon or half a day. Yeah. It was crazy. And I remember nothing worked. That was the green room. They booked the green room, and I remember it was so difficult to get the taps in because they were
stressful.
Super stressful. And then they were the only guests because we obviously, and they came and they were super happy.
They were very happy.
Very,
they loved
happy.
it.
They
And
loved
so
it.
that was it. Our first season opening the guest house.
Amazing highlight. We had full house for the whole summer.
And we were super happy. We had so many.
Until
we had to close down again.
Yes.
Because obviously COVID, and there was a second
lockdown.
And that ended up being the silver lining because we ran out of any budget for renovating any more rooms. So we decided, or you suggested, to start our YouTube channel. And that is when we started filming. And I think our first video came out in the December 2020.
And we used that time to renovate the second living room we had, which was the evening, or is the evening salon, and which is famously painted in a beautiful red, which then was never finished, and now it's blue.
It's blue. It's a beautiful, deep green blue, and everybody loves it.
In 2020, we also changed all the windows that had to be changed. We tried to keep as many windows as possible if they were original and if they were in good condition, but unfortunately many of them were too rotten. And I think it was there when we met
Benoit. You might know if you follow us.
Yes,
He's our very good friend, our carpenter friend.
Yes. Yeah, and he helped us to install the windows, and since then,
The rest is history.
The rest is history. Painting, doorknob, screwdriver, plant, chandelier, door, light switch. I'm sorry. That's embarrassing. I'm a bit confused. It's just I'm playing this amazing game right now where you have to find clues everywhere, and for a second I literally thought I am in the middle of the game. Which game, you ask? Yes, good question. It's called June's Journey, and funny enough, it happens to be this week's ad. It's a hidden object mystery game set in the 1920s where you play as June Parker, solving murders, uncovering family secrets, and piecing together clues scene by scene. And I have to say, the visuals of the game are ridiculously good. And if you like buildings like this, which I suppose you do because that's why you're watching, you would for sure enjoy the game as much as I do. What I like about June's Journey is that it is relaxing, but at the same time your brain is still constantly working. You're scanning every detail, spotting clues, unlocking new chapters. It's surprisingly satisfying. And to make it even more appealing to me, they're hosting special Agatha Christie events inspired by classics like Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. Growing up, Hercule Poirot was the detective for me. The attention to detail, the way he notices the one thing everyone else misses. It's such a classic style of mystery storytelling, and it genuinely captures the glamorous, suspenseful 1920s atmosphere I love so much. I've also spent a lot of time decorating my island in the game. Well, you know, we like decorating, and I'm very fond of this little nice property here. So if you want to try it out by yourself, download June's Journey for free by clicking the link in the description or by scanning the QR code, which should be here. It's available on Android, iOS or PC. And there's also a dog. I haven't seen it before. What could a dog possibly mean?
Then we had this period of time where we were basically running our guest house for a summer season, and then we would be closing for a couple of months where we were trying to just get as much done as we could to renovate the next room in the house, in the chateau, before we had to open again the guest house. And it kind of became this very intense time where we were either working full-time, taking care of our guests, to burn out a bit. We hadn't taken a holiday in 2 years, and we had young kids, and finally realized that we needed to get some help. And so we had the amazing Charlie and her boyfriend Max, who moved over from Canada, and that made all the difference in it. And she was taking care of our guests, hosting, doing the cookings.
And with Charlie's help, we were also able, whilst we were running a guest house, to renovate the kitchen. Because until then, we still prepared all the breakfast from the old original kitchen, which we temporarily modified with the kitchen island. And it was a massive project, but a super fun project and one of the most successful projects on YouTube. And we finished it within a bit less than a month. Yeah, 6 months.
And one of my favorite projects that I've ever done here at our chateau was creating these bespoke hand-painted tiles.
We felt very tired that year, but we still managed to organize our first concert at the church next door to raise funds for the renovation of the church. And we invited our friend Johannes Bramsoller, who is a fabulous musician and who makes many of the classical songs that we always play on our channel. And it became an institution almost every year. He comes with some musicians, and we keep raising funds for the church since then. And this year, our patrons are invited as well. So I can't wait to see you patrons all out there. And if you want to come, and if you're not a patron yet, you can still become a patron and come and visit us. The kitchen is finally finished. We move in. Charlie helps us to sort out all the cupboards and everything, but we are exhausted by that time.
October of 2022.
Had to decide whether to keep the guest house or keep YouTube.
So it was a difficult decision because we had put a lot of energy and time into building up our guest house business, but our hearts were more in our YouTube project.
We closed down the guest house. There was a last amazing event here at the Chateau.
Before
it closed out, and that was Sarah's wedding.
Our really lovely friend, Sarah Peachy. Sarah Dici.
That's her YouTube name. She's a very famous YouTuber, and her husband
John Hill, he's also a big YouTuber.
Yeah, both big YouTubers and the most lovely people, and we hope to see them soon again at the Chateau. And they had a wedding here.
They're a very intimate, really lovely wedding with their family, and it was the first ever wedding we hosted here. It was a nice way to finish our guest house. So now we have time to dedicate and focus solely on renovating and creating content for YouTube. And our next major project is renovating the dining room. And we decide that we're going to try to get it ready to host our first family Christmas at the Chateau. So we literally had like a month, I think, to renovate it.
And it was the first room, I have to say, where I was able to choose the color, the
Yes.
paint, all by myself.
As you will see.
And it's still the most controversial color in the Chateau, but I'm very proud of it, and I will insist that it stays like this even when I open up as a hotel in the future.
Yeah, it was a moment where I think I embraced something that I wasn't sure about, but I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, and I think it works really beautifully.
And we had a wonderful Christmas at the Chateau, and it was a success, the room.
Yeah.
2023 went on with renovation projects.
Yeah.
We started working on the Chateau gates.
We had to just come up with this design ourselves. We had to be inspired by what we saw on the Chateau, some of the features and details we found on the Chateau. And we were able to work with incredible craftsmen. We were able to work with obviously John Paul, who did all the stone masonry and carving by hand to make it look really original. And it was really like, it felt like the cherry on the cake, because it was really this beautiful entrance now to our Chateau.
Yeah, and luckily we have a little less people just walking in thinking this is a public park or knocking on our windows and saying cuckoo. It's always a bit scary and freaky. We don't want that. So we have a gate. It shows people that this is a private property now.
And finally, because we didn't have our guest house anymore, we had our first proper summer holiday in many years, and we chartered a boat and we went to Greece.
For the first time chartering our own boat.
Yeah.
Without a skipper. 2 fantastic weeks in Greece. We made a vlog, which was, fun enough, successful.
Yeah, and I think Philip had a moment where he thought that we should just sell the Chateau and buy a boat and just sail around the world and become a sailing channel. I won't, you're not going to deny it.
No, I'm not going to deny it. This temptation still there.
I think it's where the idea started to kind of grow that we would maybe like to have our own boat and do more sailing and traveling.
And another important thing that started in this year is the master suite renovation, which became a saga because it took forever.
It did take a
It's where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, that was also a moment where we started to question, what are we doing this for?
I think it felt so grand, and we never envisioned a life in such grand rooms. It wasn't the goal for us. We really wanted to turn this into a guest house. That was the reason. It wasn't because we wanted to live like kings or something. So
Chateau.
we were living up there and we were really happy in our little cozy attic space. And then we created these amazing rooms that feel much more like in a palace or in a luxury hotel. And I think we didn't feel comfortable with the idea to moving down here.
I think it was the beginning of a bit of a crisis for us, where we started to question what we were actually doing at the Chateau and questioning whether we needed to maybe sell the Chateau, whether we were happy here with our lives here.
Move on to a new project. It takes a lot of money to keep this property as it is. Why would we spend all the money we make on YouTube just to keep this building alive, a building which is way bigger than we ever need? It doesn't seem like a sustainable way of living. And all these questions were part of the reason why I urgently needed some escapism.
We just bought a boat. I'm not sure how those words just came out of my mouth. This is surreal, isn't it?
It's absolutely surreal. And so in April 2024, we went to Sweden and looked at a beautiful Arcona 400, and we bought it.
It gave us this new adventure, something exciting to discover with our family, and we spent the whole summer sailing.
And honestly, after years and years of just being focused on the Chateau, it was so important for us and for our family to have something else to look forward to.
And also, that trip was a really wonderful moment because we met some very good friends of ours, Carl and Christina. You might know them from Swedish Man Life. We ended up communicating and contacting each other on Instagram, and it turned out that we happened to be on a boat which was literally half an hour down the road from their manor house, and they invited us for the weekend. And it was a really great time for us because not only did we make new friends, but we also got to discover their incredible manor house and how they were living in it as a family, and it really inspired us to do the same. So when we got back from that holiday, that's exactly what we did.
So in 2025 we left our attic apartment to move down here. And we decided we continue renovating, and that we knew that there was one big problem here, and we didn't have a room for Anna to work, because in the meantime Anna developed her line of wallpaper and our fabrics. We have so many outbuildings, and we decided we should renovate the coach house. It could be a perfect workshop space for Anna. And we found out we are in the process of creating probably the most expensive workshop ever built.
And then that summer when we went sailing on our boat, that was really the moment where we started to reflect on what we were working on, because the facade of that coach house looked incredible, but we were spending a lot of money. We were throwing so much money at this project. We started to see there was a huge potential for the coach house, and it didn't feel right to just compromise that and to just make it into a workshop. And we came back to the chateau with a new decision, with a complete change of plan.
If you're a follower of this channel, you know it. We turn the whole property into a hotel. We move out from the chateau and we move into one of our outbuildings as our family home.
Right now we're about to leave a beautifully finished chateau to go and renovate a farm building that's
well, we
crumbling.
renovated such a big building, it's nothing.
But we're very excited about it because it's a whole new project. It's going to be completely different to renovating an 18th century chateau.
We will be able to start renovating the longhouse, our future home, hopefully in September.
We hope.
After the summer.
Yeah. We are taking on a huge challenge that we hope will work, and only time will tell, and you have to follow along if you want to see us taking on this new project. We would love you to subscribe to our channel if you're not already, and follow it. It's going to be really exciting. We can't wait.
And please, if you have any questions about this project or the future project, leave us a comment. If you don't have any questions, still leave us a a because it's good for the algorithm, and a like would be amazing.
So happy anniversary
Happy anniversary
7 years.
to the 7 years with the fictional.
And thank you again to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. And don't forget, the Agatha Christie collaboration is only going on until June, so the perfect moment to download the game is now.